Welcome back. You're listening to Spiritually Connected with Tanya Lee. I'm your host, Tanya Lee. Ooh, I'm excited today. Today, we have a fantastic guest whose life experiences have shaped her world in amazing ways. Let me tell you more about Kelley. Kelley Eckhardt is a compassionate, loving, and respected psychic medium who is trained and developed with many Arthur Findlay tutors over the years. I'm going to find out more about that one. Kelley has also been tested and validated by Shay Parker's Best American Psychics, Lisa Williams, and Bob Olson's Best Psychic Directory. Ooh, another thing to dip into. Many people describe Kelley as the real deal due to her ability to bring through the essence of spirit along with detailed information only your spirit family would know. I definitely know she's the real deal, so please welcome Kelley Eckhardt to the show. Kelley.
Hi, thank you. I got it. It's so weird hearing somebody talk about you.
I get that feeling too.
I know. I'm like, huh? Well, thank you for having me, Tanya. I'm so excited. I love this. Thank you.
Me too. I'm going to state the obvious here. Kelley, you and I know each other from our book together.
Yes, right here. The best book ever.
It really is. So
I love it.
This book is called The Last Breath, and you've heard me talk about it before and in the past. And Kelley is an author. Kelley, what is your chapter number?
I am chapter 33.
33. Oh, and what's the title of it?
Believing and Grieving.
I love that. I actually had an opportunity to read it. So I want to talk a little bit about your story because it's pivotal here. Are you open to talking a little bit about it?
Oh, yeah. Go right ahead.
Awesome. So what made you choose that story?
It was difficult to choose that story because I have a lot of things I want to write about. But when I sat down to write, it just came out.
Ooh,
it started out, it was going to be about signs. And then it just sort of evolved to being about my son and how my belief system and believing in the spirit realm and believing in, that the afterlife really helped myself and my family with our grief, and how the spirit world, my son and others, continue to shine that light on us and continue to give us the proof when we need it because we were open to it.
Love that. So are you open to talking about your son's passing? So your son passed, he's in the spirit world. Are you open to talking about that?
Yeah, he was such a beautiful soul, but he struggled a lot with drugs and addiction. And he got sober for a while, which was really good. And life was getting good for him. But then he lost 4 friends Thanksgiving 2015 in a car accident right after he just spent a week here visiting. He was living in Colorado. And then right after that, my mother-in-law passed, and she was like a grandmother to them. It was their stepdad's mom, their Omi. And we went to the funeral, and he said, "Mom, I want to move back home." And we were concerned because of the drugs, and he moved out of state to get away from all the drugs and his friends. So he moved back home, and he was doing really good for 5 months. Life was great, and we were getting ready to go pack up and take the youngest, who was 9 at the time, on a road trip because we unschool him, and we were going to take him cross country and just go do for a few months for the summer. So we sold everything we owned. We bought an RV. We moved all the adult kids out because we had my nephew, my niece, my son, my daughter all living in my daughter had just turned 18, So we got my son and my daughter their own apartment, and they were so excited. And he was helping us move, and then the night he helped us move, he went out drinking and partying, but he came home at 2 a.m. and he was fine, my daughter said, and everything was great. So he relapsed later that night, and about 7 a.m. he got drugs, and we thought he overdosed. But when the test came back, they said he didn't have enough drugs in the system to overdose. They didn't know why he died. So it wasn't an overdose. They said he hardly even got any in his system. So it was really confusing. So about 6 months later, we found out that he had a genetic heart condition that we had no idea that he had. It's so rare. It's hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And it's the #1 cause of all these young football players in high school dropping dead on the field, because it's just like finding a needle in a haystack. If you don't know family history, about it, then you can't find it. So that was a little devastating. And at the same time, my youngest also has a heart condition. So it was a bit traumatic. We knew about his heart condition because he was born with it. So it's a little bit nerve wracking, thinking I just lost one from one I didn't know about. Now I've got one who has one and I know about it. And so as a mom, I think, the whole thing was a little bit traumatic. But we moved for about 2 years, and I just threw myself into my mediumship, and that really helped me with my grief, really. And then we came back to Huntington. We kind of wanted to get out of our city because that's where he passed. It was like a lot of it was emotional. But it's been a little over 4 years. I miss him all the time, but he's always showing himself. He's always around. Like, it's just crazy. So I love it.
What is one sign that he gives to you?
The number one sign is the number 420. He was a stoner, and he knew that bothered me, but there was always a joke about 420 because that's stoner time, right? And when the kids were younger, we'd always get hotel rooms for them and one for us because we went with my husband. He's a contractor. We would follow him for work, and we would go have fun while he worked. And the kids would always get room 420. It was like so annoying, and they'd post about it, and I was like, stop it. So immediately after he passed, I mean, that's just one of the main signs, but immediately after he passed, my mother got sick about 5 months later, and she was in the hospital, and it was a terrible hospital. And I had to it took me a week to get her transferred to a better hospital. I had to fight because she's on Medicare, and, they didn't want to move her. So we get her moved, and they're in the ambulance taking her, and they said, go have dinner, give us time to check her in. She'll be in room 404 when you get here. So we get to the hospital after dinner, and she's not room 404, and I panic and think, oh my God, something happened. And I'm like, where's my mother? Where's my mother? And they're like, oh, I don't know why she's moved, but she's in room 420. I was like, oh, she's going to be okay. And then the next morning we came back to see her in the morning, and they moved her back to 404. And they said, I don't know why we had her in 420. That was a mistake, and we're sorry. I mean, she has to be right in front of the nurse's station because she thought she could walk and she couldn't. So she kept falling out of bed. And so they needed a nurse to watch her. So I was like, okay. And they're like, we don't know why she got there. And I'm like, I know why. So, I mean, and then my dog passed on my birthday last year in 2018, and he was having seizures. His seizures started at 4:20 in the morning.
Wow.
So I just thought, okay, my son's coming to take him,
Yeah.
and help him. So just lots of strong signs like that from my son.
That's amazing. So I am so sorry that you lost your son. Like, honestly,
Thank you.
I'm not a mom, but I can only imagine I can't even begin to imagine what it's like to lose someone and then go through the grief that you went through. So my deepest.
Yeah, I don't wish it on anybody. It's
No.
not a fun club to be in.
No.
But it's the life like I've been dealt, and I'm not going to be bitter about it,
And yes, and I love that. So can I ask, is that about the time that I know you started developing your skills? So you've been psychic your whole life, right? But is that when you started developing your mediumship?
So no, actually, I've always had the gift, and I've had so many visits like from spirit and things that happened in my life, like spirit telling me to do things that I did in my dreams. Like my dad and my first boyfriend used to come visit me a lot. I was in an abusive relationship, marriage, and they were like, you leave now or you're going to die, Kelley. So I packed up that morning. That was, like 20 years ago. And I moved. I just moved out, and me and my kids went on our way, and I got divorced, and they gave me that strength. They also came and showed me my husband now and said, that's your husband. And I was like, no, he's not. So, because I had worked with my husband for 25 years. So spirit was like I'm always very connected with my spirit family and my guides and my angels. Since like before I was even born, I remember being in the spirit world. So when my youngest son was born, he never slept like me. Never slept. The other two slept great. He was always like freaking out when we went to hotel rooms, even as an infant, like hitting things in the air. And I was like, what is he doing? This is so weird. So we had to literally put him in his crib in the hotel room and throw a blanket over it to make it pitch black for him to sleep. Because if he could see any kind of shadow or anything, he was standing up, hitting and punching frequently. And I just thought, this is the oddest behavior. So as soon as he could talk, he started telling me all about my dad, who died 6 years before he was born, and what a great man he was, and how he was so much fun, and he really missed him, and he loved him so much. And it was really sad how my dad ran over his dog, but he was with his dog now. And I was like, what? Because I didn't talk to my dad for 22 years, and I found him just before he passed, about 2 years before he passed. And my dad was an alcoholic, and he did run over his dog, but I didn't really know that for sure, because it's a long story. But anyways, so my 2-year-old's telling me about how my dad ran over his dog, and he's telling everybody at preschool, and then they're telling me at preschool he's got some issues and that they feel like he needs some therapy. And so he was at a Christian preschool, so we pulled him out and moved him to a Montessori school. And then, he was doing okay there, but when it got to be about 4, he started talking about his past lives and who he was. He was Abigail Utenstein in the Holocaust. He was killed in a gas chamber, he told me, and he wanted to know, why was Hitler such an evil man, and why would he do such evil things? And then, after that, I found a child psychologist, and I started developing. I found a child psychologist who was a medium, and she's written several books. Yeah, and so I was like, okay, I need help. And so we went and saw her every week for a couple of years, and she just saved my life and helped me. And he told her all about his past lives, and then he shared with me all the stuff that he knew, and he explained to me that he saw spirits like people, and so that's why he was always doing this. He didn't know if they were real. And he started then becoming more open, because we were letting him know, like, it's okay to talk about it. So he scared a few nannies.
I bet he did.
I used to get phone calls all the time. There's somebody in the house. I'm like, no. They're like, Aiden said there's a lady standing next to me, and she's my twin. And I'm like, is your mom in spirit? She's like, yes. Do you look like your mom? Yes. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, Aiden, who did you see? And he's like, nobody. It was just her mom.
Right.
So she was like, oh my God, So we had to really work with him about how to use a little discernment and not just go around blurting everything. And we kind of unschooled him and pulled him out of school because he didn't really fit in. And at the same time I was developing, he loved to go around telling everybody, I'm a medium. And he'd give the most amazing readings. And he takes on the persona of spirit, and he'd become a girl, and he'd have a purse, and he'd talk about their nails and their makeup and about somebody's aunt. And I was just like, oh my gosh, he would like participate in I had a crystal store, and he would give crystals to people that needed healing. He'd grab and I don't know how he taught this, because I didn't even know this. He grabbed the rose quartz, or he'd grab a black stone, because they had a lot of anger in them. And like, he was just always like doing these things just naturally as a little child. And so, he really encouraged me. And I felt like I was learning for him. And then in turn, what ended up happening was like, I actually loved this so much. I knew that this is what I wanted to do and all I wanted to do. And so I had been working as a bookkeeper and HR manager for all my life, for my husband mostly, in other companies. But I told my husband, you need to get a bookkeeper. I'm quitting. I'm just going to do this. And my husband's like, okay. And so we have a bookkeeper now, because I said to him, I can't be doing this and numbers. It doesn't work. My brain, it's too much, because when I go into this space, the numbers are gone.
Yes.
I mean, I still see numbers, but it's not like, I'm not as detail oriented as I was. I'm a little bit loopy, and I want to stay loopy when I'm doing this work. I don't want to go from this to numbers and numbers to that. And he's like, no, I get it. So, and he's really been amazing. Like, he drives me to my small group readings when they're at people's houses, and he waits for me because he wants to make sure I'm safe. He takes me to my events, and he checks people in. He's just, and he loves to like tell everybody I'm a medium. He's a contractor too. Like, in an elevator, people are like, oh, what does your wife do? And like all these like, important people, other contractors and the people who draw up the plans, whatever they are, the building mate. And he's like, oh, she talks to dead people.
That's my favorite. Oh my God.
He's pretty proud, and I like that. It was a little freaky at first for him, but then he just totally like gave it, like was like all into it.
I love it. I love that he supports you. Like, to me, honestly, that's often is the biggest hurdle for us as mediums, as psychics, is that our loved ones in the physical world don't actually support us, like especially our intimate partner. I think that's so important. Okay, so I know I'm going to get questions asking, how did you train him? but it wasn't a training thing that you did, right? He was just open to it. You got to let us know here.
My husband,
Yeah.
you know, he's a lot like me. He hears spirit. He doesn't see them. But even before like I started developing, we always talked about like our connection with people we knew. And he'd always say, "Oh, my friend Wayne's here. You know, I can feel him." Or, you know, so he's very open himself spiritually. You know, he's been sober. So he was sober for 15 years. He relapsed when we like fell in love, and then he got sober. And when he went to rehab, I got pregnant with Aiden, our youngest. So he's been sober 14 years now. And, you know, he always attributes some of his sobriety to having that connection with the spirit world, you know, that whatever you believe in, right? Your God.
Yeah.
And he likes to get up. He used to get up really early, go smoke a cigarette. He doesn't smoke anymore, and open up his little prayer book, his AA prayer book. And it was like 365 days and say the prayer and just sort of like spend that time watching the sun, you know, rise and things like that. So he's a very spiritual person, I would say himself. And that's probably what attracted me to him. And I also have a strong belief that most addicts are like mediums and intuitives, and they're trying to cover up feeling too much with the alcohol and the drugs because they don't understand it, because our society doesn't teach people, you know, about this gift.
Couldn't agree
So,
more with that.
and my older son was definitely an empath. I mean, you wouldn't believe them. I mean, I knew he was, but the messages I got from his friends and a lot of girls, he was friends with everybody, just about how he helped them and how he walked them through things. And they would send me like long text messages from my son or things like that of him really consoling them and how he was just always there for his friends. And he's just like me. I was like, oh my gosh.
I
I mean,
love
I
that.
knew it, but I didn't realize how much. And I love that I got all these beautiful friends of his that, you know, they wanted me to know, and I thought
Mhm.
that was beautiful. So I think that I have empathic children, definitely.
Well, I always say that if both parents are empathic, their kid has, doesn't have a hope in hell of a chance of not being like, you get that
That's my
gift.
youngest, Aiden. Yeah, and he's a Pisces.
Oh,
Yeah,
loading it up for that one.
yeah. Well, he's 13 now, and he wants nothing to do with this work.
Yeah.
He wants no part of it. He doesn't contest everything that I tell you, but he doesn't want to discuss it.
And I think that's part and parcel, correct me if I'm wrong, but part and parcel part of, because I hear that a lot with a lot
Yeah.
of children between that age. It's because I have a couple of
He wants to
mentors.
be normal. He wants to be
Yes,
normal.
exactly.
And I'm all for it. I'm like, I
Mhm.
am so great, but you can't deny it. It doesn't go away because I tried my whole life and I couldn't get rid of it. Okay, let me tell you. And then when you don't listen to that gut feeling, that's when, you know, things go bad. Not that it was horrible, but like I made a lot of mistakes because I didn't follow that gut.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, let's keep going. I want to just talk to you forever. All right. So what is this you're currently working on? I happen to know that you have a center. Let's talk about that.
I I'm super excited because for the last year I have been sharing a space with my husband, a warehouse space and an office, and it's been horrible because he's a contractor and I'm a spiritual person, and we have different likes and decorating views. So, and he's noisy. So, the warehouse next door to him became available. It's only 1,000 square feet, but it has a little office, and I rented that space out, and we are putting together a spiritual center. It's called the Love and Light Center in Huntington Beach. Right now, painting right this very second. She's finishing up as the artist. She's painted two beautiful murals on the wall. I've been doing my own palette art. So I made a palette bookshelf. It's really pretty. It's like 8 feet tall. That's in between her art. And I'm making this beautiful palette chandelier, kind of fairy garden thing that's going to hang from the ceiling with moss and these really pretty tree branches. And I put butterflies and there's dragonflies, and I've just ordered little ladybugs. It's going to be really cool. And I'm going to have one to tongue these like little round little tree branches with birds, and it's going to have some fairies swinging. It's just going to be really kind of like this huge big centerpiece up high. It's 8 feet by 4 feet. So it's been a lot of fun. It's going to be a huge ordeal to hang it. And then I've got to hang all the crystals from it once it's hung. And it has all little twinkly, like fairy lights on it. And yeah, I'm excited. And I'm going to be renting out the space. I was going to have a big event, but COVID got worse. So we postponed the event till March. And I have faith that with this new vaccine that's coming out, that we're going to be open back up by March. And that'll be my real grand opening. But it's it's plenty of space to have COVID safe events here locally. I think people need to be around people still. And so I'm trying to provide a space where, because it's a warehouse, we can open it up and we've got air flowing through it. So it's not like an indoor confined place. I can separate everybody by 6 to 8 feet and have a nice group of people. So, and I've got tables with the plastic dividers things,
Mm-hmm.
so that the sitters can sit, and so I'm gonna have a big fair when it's safe.
Well, I think I just need to come from Canada or Australia, wherever I am, and just come visit you
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring as many mediums here to come and do demonstrations. I can probably get 60 to 70 people with chairs in here. So, because it's not like huge, but it's also, there's enough room to get lots of chairs, and I have like by the back where the roll-up door is, we're building a stage, which is going to be on wheels that'll lock, but then I can move it out of the way during regular times.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so amazing. I can't wait. I can't wait. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. When Kelley has more pictures, we're going to share pictures on my website. And
oh, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I love this. So on the Spiritually Connected website, probably when this airs, to be honest with you, you'll probably have much more further ahead and going. So I'm excited for you. Oh,
I'm excited. I love to do things like this. I had the crystal store, which was a blast, but I didn't like retail. I didn't want to sell. So this is kind of like my vision in the crystal store, but just it's all about the events and bringing the community together for classes and learning. That's why it's called the Love and Light Center, a place. Oh, what did I call it? Oh my gosh, I just drew a blank. But it's about a place to grow. Yeah. I think it's like a place to grow or something like that. Grow and evolve. But yeah, so I'm excited.
I love that.
They don't have enough of that here in Huntington, where I live.
They don't have enough of it anywhere, to be honest with you. Same thing Canada, Australia. We're growing. There's more of us, and especially with 2020 coming into play here. And we all knew, do you ever get asked this? And I'm sure you do, but I kept getting, didn't you know 2020 was going to be awful, or COVID? The only thing I really truly knew and I tapped into is it was going to be a complete unveiling, complete awakening, very, very spiritual, very, very healing for so many people. And it's true. I mean, that has occurred. Did we anticipate the apocalypse? Not quite. Knew there would be something, but not sure. Did people ask you?
Yeah, they do. And here's the thing, I think we've talked about this before earlier, but I don't like to predict the future or look into the future. I don't believe that that's healthy.
Mm-mm.
Because just because I see something doesn't mean it's going to happen. We all have free will. There is a difference between looking into my future, your future, and predictions of world events. So I know there's a difference. And that's also not been something I really feel like is my forte. My child, yes, he sees into the future and big world events. And it's pretty insane, and I've been documenting it. So, you never know. I'm going to put it together maybe in a book one day, and 100 years from now, maybe he'll be like Nostradamus with all these crazy predictions.
Well,
I don't know.
I believe that
that's not my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he always tells me, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I want to hear what he tells you. What does he tell you? He always tells you what?
Well, in 200 years, there's this gigantic war, but it's not just our world, it's other planets.
Ooh.
And that the vehicles, nothing touches the ground, and nobody really talks like we're talking anymore, that they're so evolved that it's just you can kind of just hear each other's thoughts and understand each other's emotions. And I personally, he says me, because he tells me that him and I have had lots of lives together, And this is after him seeing a shaman, and he goes into a trance when he was like 7. But I will not be coming back. I've chosen to stay and be a like guide for him. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it's a terrible time, but it gets better. But it changes. The world changes, he says, as we know.
Got it. Well, we won't know that world in 200 years from now, but many others will.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I find it fascinating. He was only 7, telling me some crazy stuff. That I don't know where a 7-year-old would get that. You know?
I find it fascinating as well, and I think that Nostradamus was can't even say it right.
I know, Nostradamus.
Yes, was, I don't believe, was the only one that did predictions.
Wasn't.
You know, it was the only one maybe that wrote it down, or someone who wrote it down for them, or whatever the case may be. I think that there's so many, and I think that with so many crystal kids and indigo kids out there right now, like, and being born all the time, there's more and more palpable, and I believe telepathy is 100% coming. Like it's here.
It's already here. Yeah, I mean, I can walk into a room and I can hear thoughts. Yeah. I've done that since I was a kid, and I'm pretty accurate. I've asked people, I actually sometimes thought people actually said it, and they're like, no, I was thinking that. How did you know that? Oh, okay.
That's the
my
worst.
My husband and I are always like reading each other's thoughts. Like he knows exactly, and you're like, why'd you say that? And I'm like, I didn't say it. What are you talking about? He's like, did you just say this? And I'm like, are you in my mind again?
Men are in trouble because they'll be like, hey, that's a cute girl. Girlfriend's gonna slap them. Wait, that was in my mind. I take it back.
Sometimes their body language speaks.
It does. It truly does. That's awesome. Okay, so you talked about, and I agree with this. Not everybody every psychic medium has their strengths and their
gift. Yeah.
Special gifts. I want to hear about yours, because you know what? You're very gifted, like very gifted. I'm honored to be in this book with you. So two of your favorite, what are your favorite modalities?
My number one favorite modality, I would say, is my mediumship. It's sort of like this natural high. It's almost like you have this glass of wine and you just feel, and I don't drink wine, right? But because I'm allergic, but if I drink wine, you know, it's like that, like you just feel so euphoric all around. And I love that feeling. And I love that feeling of connecting with someone's loved one, bringing them that peace, that closure, but also not just them, but spirit. And every reading I feel, and I don't know if you feel this way, helps touch me and heal me in just a little bit of way, bit as well.
Absolutely.
And I understand sometimes my own family members better from spirit through readings, because with me, they use a lot of my own, like, you know, family, my own history, or like my own like knowledge of past things, and explain things. And it's like really interesting. So I feel like it makes me a lot more compassionate and understanding to the living, if that makes sense.
To me, it makes complete sense. And I'm with you 100%. I heal even more every time I do a reading. So I love that. You have
healing.
You have another special gift though, too. I love this part of you. So tell me about the compatibility readings.
I've been doing this my whole life. I mean, everyone that knows me since I was a kid would always come and ask me, like, what do you think of this person by their name? And I would tell them without ever meeting the person. And I'm always really accurate. And it never occurred to me till I was at a workshop about 5 years ago. And everybody started calling me the relationship psychic.
Yes.
At the workshop, because we were having a few drinks as mediums, and we were all giving each other readings, and I was reading pictures and names. And they were like, how do you do that? And I'm like, don't you guys do that? And they're like, no. So I was like not confident at first, but I started having clients asking for it. And so I created it. So I do a lot of this reading where, so for business and for personal. So I have three, maybe four, I can't remember. There's definitely three clients I have that come to me 2 or 3 times a year, and they are what you call, you said it earlier, I always forget the name of this, where they're promoting things on social media. They're influencers.
Yes.
Yeah, and they like to come and give me names of businesses or people that they're working with, and I tell them how I feel about them compatibly working with that person, and what I feel like they need to watch out for or be careful of, or how there could be conflicts. And they tell me I'm very accurate, so I'm happy with that. And then I've been doing it for people with relationships, and all I really need is the name of their person that they want to hear about, or a picture where I can see the eyes. And it's like I'm telling them, I can tell them exactly what that person's like, how they behave, how they're going to get along, and the only issues I see their relationship having, if there are any, or if I feel like sometimes I've met people around like, that's your soulmate. You're not going to, I know you're going to mess us up, but you guys are going to end up together.
I love that. I love that. So,
Yeah.
so I love that. And the reason I want to bring this back up again is because, so Kelley and I talked about this before the show started, and I did that too when I was little, and it's what created me. I used to own a dating company, and I was
Oh,
so good at it, and people
yeah.
couldn't figure out why. So I would create these dinners, and it was mostly for white collar, but I would put the person, and it was kind of like speed dating. I would put the person at the spot I felt their main course is the person I felt they should connect with. And by the
Ooh.
time I was done, I had done over about 200 people. By the time I was done, I had like a 98% accuracy rate.
Oh my God, that would be so fun.
It was just a hoot. I mean, it was
I
just,
should try that.
yes, do it, do it. I love it. And it's
Oh my
all about the
gosh.
eyes. So I really honed it because those people that know me really well, it started out with me going on a date with an ex-murderer. So that's another story to come back to. There's another story. But then people started asking me, how did you know? How did you find out? Like, how did you know that he wasn't, didn't feel good? And I really trust my instincts. And I always talked about his eyes weren't right. Like his eyes are the windows to the soul. And
Yeah.
like
Nothing
completely,
there sometimes.
exactly. And you just feel
Yes.
it. I just
It's a
felt it. You just,
scary feeling when you see that. It frightens me when I see that in somebody.
yes.
Um, and it happens to a lot of people that are really strung out on drugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like they're not there anymore.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
vacancy for sure.
But that's not who they are. It's not it's different than somebody who's like literally like you could just see like they're not there. But sometimes it happens to people from doing a lot of drugs, like they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So what I ended up doing is I went down, like I worked with the Monroe Institute down in the States,
Oh,
and I ended up working with the owner of it, the guy that runs it, and we got him to come to Canada, where I'm from, and I work with him remote viewing, and he said, you are the very one of very few people that can do what you do. So do what you and I do, Kelley. So
I do remote viewing too.
yes,
I visited my best friend when she was in a coma in the hospital. I saw everything in the hospital, all her stuffed animals, her flowers, everything. Because they wouldn't let anybody in there if you weren't family. She was
right.
in a coma for 2 months. And when she woke up, she's like, I saw you. And I said, I know, I saw you. We talked.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So now I want to lead into this. I don't want to go away from this, but you must also do astral travel a
I have
lot.
my whole life. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what?
My mother did it too. I caught my son sneaking out of the house when he was 13. I followed him to the park and everything. And when he came back at 4:30 in the morning, I got up and said, "How was this, the park? How was so and so?" And he was like, oh. But he knew. I always knew everything. I saw through his eyes.
Yes. Yes. Oh man, you can't get away with anything with Miss Kelley, you guys. So aren't you glad you're not her mom? Or you just better be a damn good kid. That's all.
I always knew when they were doing something they shouldn't do. And my son used to say, "How do you always know when they were little, and come outside right as I'm about to like climb up a tree that I shouldn't be in, or throw a rock at something I'm not supposed to throw rocks at?" I'm like, because I know.
Uh, Hello, it's mother's instincts first kicking in,
Yeah,
and then it's
yeah.
intuition. I get it. I
It's
got it.
funny. Yeah,
I love it.
it's fun.
I think that's amazing. So maybe you and I, if you're open to this, maybe you and I should
Yeah.
do a session or a dem on compatibility.
Oh, I'd love that.
That'd be so fun.
I'd
That'd be
love that. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
I would like to do that. I would love to learn like about the dating thing, because that's kind of why I call it the relationship compatibility report. But I thought like I've never thought about it like what you just said, like about the dating service, and oh my God, that would be fun.
It
I would
was
love to be a matchmaker.
it was so much. So I actually hire, like, I didn't do matchmaking because I ended up doing quite a bit of matchmaking in the end. And it's funny when you go up to somebody in a park. So, hey, are you single? Not for me, for my dating company. And they're like, yeah, right. But yes, I did end up doing in the end. But that was not my intent. My intent was I'm going to use this gift I have and connect people. And it was a business venture all through and through. Like it, and it was to help people in my own mind. It was to help people. And
Yeah,
it was fun, super fun. I loved it. Super fun.
that's awesome.
Yeah, so let's
I
talk
like
about
that.
that more. Yeah, let's do it.
I know,
Okay.
definitely. I would like that. I think that would be exciting.
Me
I
too.
think that would be so fun to market that and put it out there and the people. Yeah, that would be a great.
Let's figure it out. All right, you guys, you'll have to
Okay.
stay tuned. It'll come probably in the new year, but we'll get hopping on that because it's a lot of fun for us. It's easy and it sounds easy. And yeah, let's play. Okay, we're gonna just keep going. I wanted to talk about who you were trained with. Now, you're
Oh,
trained with some pretty famous people, and you and I share a fabulous mentor, Andy Bing.
yes,
Love that guy.
yes,
He's funny. He's a very humble guy, uh, but amazing tutor from
he
our
is.
family. So
Yes,
there's that. Who
he
else?
resonated with me.
Me
Well,
too.
my main mentor, I have to say, would be Mavis. I did I did a like I always said it was an 18-month mentorship, but Allison always corrects me and says, "No, Kelley, it was 12 months." I said, "But it really was 18 months because it started really early. I don't know how to explain it. Why, but when I did the math, it's 18 months, so I don't know. But I started really developing with her literally like right when my son passed.
Mhm.
And so that was about the last, and I probably like worked with her in workshops and things like that. She actually did a workshop at my shop. I did everything. I just sort of followed her on her little trail here in the US. When Ellison brought her, I went to Seattle. I went to wherever she was at. I took every one of her things, the Queen Mary, you name it. So I just love her so much. And then I started with Indy being after a little after being with her for a couple years, and before that I was mentoring with this medium Fleur. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she's an LA medium, and she kind of was mentored by Tony Stockwell and
Oh,
James Van Prague and Lisa Williams back when she first developed, I think. But she was like a young up and coming medium, and she was super gifted. And she's kind of who I found first, and just really got me on my way. And I have to attribute like 90% of my mediumship to her. And then I just feel like Mavis just helped me hone in and understand the gift and control it much better. The way that Mavis explained things. And then Andy really resonated with me because I am so clairsentient. I'm also very visual, but I feel so many things. So I feel like a little bit of everybody kind of like helped resonate with the way I work.
I love
um,
that.
and I've taken a lot of like Tony Stockwell's classes and James Van Prague's classes, and I did Lisa Williams mentorship. Now she's not Arthur Finley; she is from England, but she is more, I would say, of a combination of a UK medium and an American medium. I like her.
Oh.
I'd say she's a mix, and you know, I learned a lot from her too.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
she kept me busy right after my son passed. I joined her mentorship literally like a month later. That's what I did. I threw myself into mediumship and I joined all these mentorships. And I just thought, I just have to keep busy
Hmm.
so I can keep helping people and I can take care of myself.
Agreed. I agreed.
Yeah.
So I love that you went to different mediums or different mentorships. I think that's important. So people ask
Too.
me about sticking with one, or I will tell my mentees, you need to outgrow me, or you need
Yes.
variety teachers because they're going to teach you different things. Can we come back to, because you hit on a really good point here, the difference between an American taught medium and a UK taught medium. Can you just touch on that a little bit? Because it's important.
Well, this is going to be my opinion,
Share.
and I don't know that everybody's going to share it, but I love the UK mediums. They are very strict, they're very evidential. And I love the evidential part because I am before I did this, right, I was a mathematician. I was a bookkeeper. I'm a numbers person. I design databases. I create custom software. Like, I am very much in my brain. And so to me, I wanted validation. I wanted that. It was more selfish in the beginning. But now I understand it too, is like it's a way of validating spirit and honoring them too. So they're very much about, those rules. They have rules. And they are some amazing mediums, but they also don't necessarily have the creativity or the freedom that American mediums have. And I love that American mediums step outside of that box and get some crazy stuff, and they're funny, and so I feel like having a combination of the two is a really healthy combination. We believe here in the US, we believe in animal spirits. I know my dog comes to visit me, my cat comes to visit me. I get animals in all my readings. I know they're coming with a message, and a lot of times they like to come as people animals to me. And they like I had an Australian shepherd that came as like this good looking surfer guy with blue eyes and brown shaggy hair. So I get animals, and they don't believe that people that are in an Alzheimer's state or dementia state can come to us in spirit, because they're half here and half there. So they have these strict belief systems that they don't veer out of. And I respect that. But I know it's true. I've had my own experiences, and here in the US, it's more open. They don't believe in piggybacks. We see piggybacks all the time here in the US. So I like the freedom. I think when you take the creativity and the option to open your mind to anything away, you're limiting your belief, you're limiting your connection with spirit. And so I think that's the one thing I see with the UK mediums, is that they're amazing mediums, some of the best I've ever seen. But imagine what they could be if they didn't limit themselves. They would be like prodigies. Like, well, I don't know what your belief. I think Thomas John is a prodigy. The stuff he gets, and that's why so many people accuse him of fraud, because there's like, how did he know that? He's amazing. And I know that he's not a fraud, because before I had a reading with him, he didn't even know who I was. It didn't even have my name. It was somebody else booked it for me. And the stuff he got, like, that's not even on the internet. My dad died before the internet even existed. There is no anything on my dad. My mother-in-law was a very private service. He got, she wasn't very much on the internet. My sister-in-law is not even on the internet. He got so many things about her. She's still here. So to me, that's when you take that limiting belief off and you just open it up. And it's like, could you just imagine if they did that, some of those UK mediums? Because they're already amazing, right?
I
So
100% agree.
that's my belief system. Now, I know there's other, views.
Yeah.
But I mean, I look at it like, God, you're already amazing. But if you were to just open that up, and you still can give the validation. You still can give the proof, right?
I agree.
So
I agree. They are different. They are different. And I think it's important to distinguish the difference between the two. So prior to Andy, I never understood what the difference was. And then when I met Andy, it was, and so I've worked with Andy for about 3 or 4 years now. And when I met Andy, it was, all of a sudden I started calling it Western mediumship versus European mediumship. It was what I call it. Because there is that huge difference. There is that huge structure, that huge discipline attached to the UK. Europe, really all of Europe, they're all very strict. Yeah. Well, for sure. I love your analogy. I love how you work that. I love your thoughts on that. And there's going to be tons of other people that feel different, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, but that's just my view. Andy and I used to butt heads all the time because everyone would always bring in my mother, who's still alive, and he's like, "That can't happen, Kelley. Now stop it." I was like, "That's my mom." He's like, "No, it has to be a dead person." And I'm like, well, so it was funny. He would really be like, "Stop it, Kelley."
He is funny. He's very strict. He's very disciplined. And so he is not for everybody.
I liked him a lot, though, and I learned a lot from him. it's funny, you go through ups and downs in this business of when you're developing. And in the beginning, when I first started, I was just so open and so unafraid. And I go into trance, and I didn't know that's what I was doing. So I didn't know anything. And my teacher's like, Kelley, you should look into trance mediumship. Not everybody can do that. And I'm like, what did I do? She goes, spirit was over you. I could see them. And I was like, oh. And she's like, and you started becoming that spirit. But then, like, another teacher later on started telling me, like, okay, you can't do that. You have to do it this way. And I started getting in my mind and started not being that natural medium I was again. So I feel like Andy brought that natural medium back out of me with the clairsentient and feeling them. And I've done a lot of development in the trance mediumship, which I love, but it's just not as popular, here, and it's hard to find places to practice and develop that feel safe.
I'm with you. So you know what? There's lots I didn't know about you. So Andy and I talked extensively about my trance mediumship as well, because that's how I tend to do it as well. And you kind of say to, well, didn't you get it that way too? And they're going, no. What are you talking?
That was like, I thought like that was everybody did it that way. My first teacher was like, Kelley, this is a gift. Like, I've been working with a guy who's been training 30 years to do this. I was like, do what? She's like, basically, the angel came through you and you did healing. She's like, and you're the only one out of 15 students that I saw this happen with. And she's an amazing teacher. And I was like, what do you mean an angel came through me? I'm like, what'd she look like? I was like, I'm so confused. But we were just practicing a healing. And I think it's her energy combined with mine, I always say, because she took us on this meditation. And I dropped like that. And I was gone. And I woke up and I say I woke up. I mean, I was there, but I was gone. It was like I was really far away. And my hands were doing weird things on this lady's shoulder. I was like, I'm molesting some lady's shoulder.
We don't molest you.
This is the beginning of my development, and I was a little freaked out. And then we were doing this exercise where it's a beginner's class where you're feeling people's energy. And I'm feeling this like disconnect right here. And I'm like, it changed. Why did her energy shift? And she looks at her and she goes, did you break that arm? And she goes, yeah. And she goes, you just felt her broken arm. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, so then the next person, I'm like, did you crack your head open once? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, there's a big gap right here. So I was able to feel the energy. So I should do healing, but I like the mediumship. And I'm just now delving into healing.
I'm with you. I'm not.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It is.
I feel. And so I do get. It's funny. I mean, spirit tells me things like, you need to drink more water. You need this vitamin. You're lacking this. I don't know. It just comes out of me. And people will go to the doctor, and the doctor said, I am, anemic. You were right. Like, spirit told me. So I feel like I listen and I just do what they say, but I don't want to be that person that says like this, It's just a nerve-wracking. And maybe it's just my own thing I have to get over.
Yeah.
And so I just took my first Reiki class.
And I was going to say, hear me out. I don't poo-poo Reiki. That is not my thing at all. I never poo-poo. It's not for me. So when people ask me about it.
Not for me either.
Right? I'm like, no.
But you know what it is? It resonated with me because it's just like trans mediumship.
Yes.
It's like trans healing. I'm like, it's just different words.
Yep. Yes.
So I was like, this is what I'm already doing.
Yes.
Except without the hand movements.
And see, I went a different way with my, with the trance stuff, because again, remote viewing, and he's the one that talked about that from the Monroe Institute. I took my hypnotherapy route, the hypnosis. And so
I want to do that. I'm looking for a good hypnosis course that I can take that isn't like a lot of money.
Always. Hey.
Yeah.
That's what I love. That's where I'm at. That's what and I teach it and I love it. So that's my thing. That's my, how I can not get around the healing aspect, but everybody has their modalities that they choose and that they really flourish with. And as soon as I found hypnosis, that was like, hypnotherapy was my,
yeah.
We all have our first.
I feel so drawn to that, and I've been researching that for the last 3 years. And I feel like my life's getting to a point now where I can focus on that. Mm-hmm. I've been so focused on just developing and mentoring and getting my business up and going and just, doing what I do, that now I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm settled there. Now I'm ready to kind of like branch out. I want to do the hypnotherapy. And I also, this sounds silly, but I want to become a minister.
Yes. So many people feel that way. And that is, I'm not laughing about
I,
that. I think you'd be a
I
great.
don't know that I want to have my own church or anything like that. I really just feel like I want the education, because I feel like it's such a thorough education of all the different religions. So there's a Center for Spiritual Living here, and it's similar to spiritualist churches. And that's what I want to kind of develop in. And I've made friends with a lady who just finished hers. It takes like 6 years, and she inspires me so much, and she teaches. So I feel like that hypnotherapy are kind of my next route here.
Ooh, maybe we should work
Yeah.
together some more.
Yeah, I just feel so drawn to it. And
Mhm.
I want to work with, you know, I want to closely work with people like therapists or psychologists that work with grieving people
Yes.
somehow. I don't know why. And so I have all these things I want to do. I also want to start a nonprofit, and I want to use mediumship to raise money for sober living and rehab for people who can't afford it.
I love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the side I want to go down at. Oh, I will always support that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
it's a
It's
tough
it's
rung for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to do it, but I do feel like I have a student that she does meditation in all the rehabs, and she's a licensed therapist already, but she gets to do it in a spiritual way,
Yeah. That's
and she
beautiful.
takes them, and so I think that's kind of nice. I would like to do fundraisers though, that just sort of
Yes.
raise money and have a nonprofit where I have a fund where now I can be like, okay, here's a scholarship for this person, and I want to open up classes to people that are newly sober, because I do teach a lot, and a lot of the people I get are young and in rehabs and don't know why, but I think my son brings them to me, and because I think spirituality can really help with sobriety.
I agree.
It can really help with sobriety, and I think they're drawn to me because of my energy and what I've been through, and I'm the right teacher for them, and I've made some really great connections and friends with some of these people.
I love that.
So I love it.
So and it takes a special person to create that type of a nonprofit. So while I'm not the one to create it, I definitely know you could, and just let me know anytime you want to fundraise. I'd be happy
Yeah,
to do a reading of any sort for you, or whatever that looks like, how I could
I
support, talk about it,
yeah,
whatever that looks like, support you in that way too, for sure. So count me in for that, for sure.
I will. I know it's a big endeavor to take on. I've got the vision. I'm not ready to put it into place, but when I'm ready to put it in place, it'll happen, because that's
It
who I
will.
am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. How can people reach you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
My website, because I really don't answer my phone. My assistant will check my messages for me. But I used to answer the phone all the time, Tanya. Like, I was like religious about it. But you get stuck on the phone with people, and I have a hard time saying no or getting off the phone. I'm just like too much of a softie. So I have a long voicemail. It explains them. And so everything's on my website. You can go to www.mediumkelley.com. And if you spell my name wrong, it's okay, because I own them all and they all go to the right one. Because I was like, nobody spells Kelley right? There's all these different ways. But it's Kelley. But if they forget the E, it's going to go to me. If they put IE, it's going to go to me. If they just put I, it's going to go to me. But it's EY.
I love that. I had good for you. I have a couple of extra as well that I do just in case people go the other way as well. So I'm with you
Right.
on
And
that.
it just redirects them.
I love that. I love that.
And everything you can read all about me. You can see all of my videos, my YouTube videos, my Facebook lives. I think they're all on YouTube. You can read about my different readings and schedule on my website and everything, and see what my availability is, my pricing. I made it really easy so that, people, you can even go to my Facebook and find a link to everything. My
Yes.
Medium Kelley, and my Facebook and Instagrams both, and Twitter are all at Medium Kelley.
I love it. I love
So
it. Really easy. No
simple.
matter how you say her name, you guys, it's still Kelley. I love it. Hey, so are you open to doing a couple of readings with us?
Yeah, sure. I
Woohoo.
am.
Okay, so we're just going to get right into it. For those of you that are home and listening in for the first time, what I do is when I ask somebody to come on to the show, what I will do is I will say, hey, and if you're open to doing a reading, I'm just going to give you 4 names, 4 first names only. I'm very specific about spelling because mine is always spelt wrong.
Me too.
Yeah, see, you can relate. So I'm very specific.
Totally.
So let's go with the first one. The first one is Daphne.
So I get with Daphne that she's very much in her mind a lot, overthinking things. She's very driven about things. She's got very goal oriented, but has a tendency to overthink or even sometimes like not go after something she really wants to do because she overthought it too much. And I feel like my message for Daphne would be really to kind of take a step back from that overthinking, and every time she catches herself overthinking is to change that thought to I can do it instead of all the things that could go wrong. Start focusing on all the things that could go right and change that thinking process, because once she does that, she's going to overcome this and she's going to be able to accomplish everything and more. And she's already, like, I feel very accomplished, but she holds herself back so much with this overthinking. She's also going to sleep so much better because this girl, I feel like, never slows that brain down. She needs to find a routine before bed to calm the mind so that she can sleep and process information in her sleep, because that's what I do, and I feel like that's what she needs to do, because I can feel her brain's a lot like mine. That way she wakes up rested and has ideas.
I love that. You know what? You're absolutely right. She's one of my mentees, and I just sent
Mhm.
her a night meditation because she's not sleeping. So well done on that one.
Yeah,
Love that.
thank you. I could recognize that brain pattern. That's
Ah,
mine.
yeah. And she is very gifted too. So let's do the next one. Miss Jan, Jan.
I feel like Jan is such an empath. I just want to call her this beautiful little flower. Um, because I feel like she cares so much and loves so much for everybody. And she is so compassionate. At the same time though, Jan, I think sometimes is hard on herself
Mhm.
and doesn't have the confidence that she should have, because I feel like she's an amazing person, but she doesn't give herself the credit. And she's always saying, oh, I could have done better, or I should have done this, instead of focusing on what she did right. And I feel like there's way more that she did right than she did wrong, but she finds those little things that she's, you know. So I have to say, and it's such a cliche, I hate saying this, but it's so true. Like, she has to start giving all that love she gives to everybody else, but back to herself.
Mhm.
She has to kind of, maybe there's great meditation, and maybe you know it or have it, like, or you do this, where you send love to somebody and then you flip that same love that you just send to them right back at you. So you think of somebody that you really love and want to send all this love to, and then you give it to them, and then you flip it and you send that same love, you just did it, to yourself. And I feel like if she could start focusing on that, or maybe even making a list every day of finding 5 things that she loves that she did at the end of the day, just to kind of start focusing more on the positive things. And boundaries,
I
girl
love
needs some
that.
boundaries.
Love that. You're right. She does. 100%. Ooh,
Yeah.
got chills. That's a really good one. Really good one.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
thank you.
Miss Catherine. Catherine with a C.
Yes. Okay. I feel so like with her, like, I want to stand tall, I want to stand proud. The confidence is there. You know, this is what she portrays, but I feel like underneath there's always this fear of like, oh my gosh, are they going to see through me? But nobody would see that because she just puts on this like, I am so confident. And you know that saying, fake it till you make it. I feel like she's faking it and she's making it. It's like she's creating that confidence in herself. She's getting over her fears. So I kind of feel like she's going through something where she's pushing herself out of her comfort zone. And it's hard, but she's proud that she's doing it and it's working. And to me, it's like she's surprised but excited,
That makes
you
sense.
know?
And she is
And
going through something right now. So I love that.
yeah, and it's good. She's doing amazing, I feel. And she's seeing that and she's like, I can do this. So it's building her confidence even more,
Whew. She's also
but in a good way.
yeah, she's also a tall girl. So I love that you got that because she tends to, and when I first met her, again, she's in my inner circle. When I first met her, I thought, God, girl, you just go on for days, and I love it. And so I'm like, be proud of that. Wear that, because my barely 5'5" stance is not.
I'm 5'4".
Busy.
Barely 5'3 3/4".
It's
I
all
think I
about,
was supposed to be tall.
right? It's all about height. I just say I am the women's national height average, that women are 5'5". So I fit that. That's all that matters. No, but she's beautiful and she's tall. So I love that. And
That's why I feel like I want to stand tall. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I love that. And then the last one I have is Mr. Jay.
I feel like he's so cute.
He is.
I don't know why, but I just want to pinch his cheek like a grandma. And I just feel like he has his way with people. There's a charismatic way to him. He's very easygoing. People like him. He knows how to make people feel comfortable, feel included, and feel wanted. And he has such a huge aura. I feel like people are drawn to his energy and drawn to his love. And he feels like also a natural born healer. So I don't know if he's a healer. Okay, but he feels like that's what he's supposed to do. His hands, to me, just feel like the warmest, loving energy. And I feel like when he moves his hands, people feel that. And he has a big, open heart. But I know that he's been hurt in the past, and I know that he's developed great boundaries to protect himself through the years.
I love that. That's brilliant. He is actually going through a shift right now into very much more, so he is a coach naturally, and what he's done for lifetime. The guy is, he was actually on the podcast a couple weeks ago. He was a corporate lawyer in New York, and just said, this doesn't fit me at all. His sort of hippie-ish kind of style that he is. So he let go of all the trimness and grew his little beard here. It's
good for him.
Back and forth. But he's really embraced the spiritual side of him, because it was just always calling him. And I absolutely love where he's coming into and where he's gone. And he's much more. And I agree with the healing hands, 100%. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I just feel like if he puts his hands on your shoulders, I always say my husband's a healer, because he puts his hands on my shoulders and I just feel so good. And every time we're gambling, this is going to sound funny, I'm like, honey, come touch my shoulders, because I win. It never fails. The minute he stands next to me, I win. Not a lot, but I win. So I just feel like his good energy convinced the machine to give me my numbers.
There we go. Love that. Perfect.
I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, exactly. We'll go with that. Thank you so much for all the readings. I love that. You guys, if you want a reading, you have to be in my inner circle to get that. You can find that on the website. Kelley, oh my gosh, I could sit and talk with you all day. It's been such a pleasure. We're going to have you back on the show for sure, because we have so much more to talk about, and especially with your center opening up and everything else. So thank you so much for joining, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Have a great day, everybody.